Here are the top teams, top 10 teams in the country. The first two teams off this list, Nebraska and Kansas. Nebraska and Kansas. And number 10, I have Iowa State, who I think is a little. Nebraska's higher rated defensive on Kempom. I think Iowa State's a better defensive team. I think they played better offenses and shut down better offenses than Nebraska has, and they have better wins than Nebraska has. But I think you could throw Nebraska at 10 here. I wouldn't care. Number 9, I have Houston, and I understand Houston lost to Iowa State, but they lost to Iowa State by 3, right? And that was in Ames. Houston has some great wins. I think they have some of the best guard play in the country with Fleming, Sharp, and Uzan, and they have experienced guard play with Sharp and Uzan, who played in a national championship a year ago. I think that really, really matters, and Houston plays just as good defense as Iowa State, and I trust them more offensively. Even though their offense was a little inconsistent on that 3-game losing streak, they don't have the bad losses that Iowa State has against the Cincinnatis and the TCUs. Like Houston's losses off the top of my head, Texas Tech, Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State. Like, it's not. They definitely have a few other ones that I can't remember. I remember none of them are as bad as Iowa State's losses against TCU and Cincinnati. So I trust Houston and Kelvin Sampson and Milos Uzan in the guard play way more with Tugler and Sinak down low. Their front court isn't the greatest either, but I trust Houston way more than Iowa State. And then I have Texas Tech at 8, even with the top and injury. They have the best guards in the country. I'm not going to regurgitate myself. I think Christian Anderson's incredible. I think he's the best guard in the country. I think he is the best point guard in the country. I think he's the best, or he should be a lottery pick. I think Atwell's a dog. I think LeJean Watts is underrated. They have a big guy that's been coming in and filling the role for Toppin, and they've been crashing the boards. I think Texas Tech is a very matchup dependent team. And matchups are key in March Madness, but there's certain teams that where if they catch a certain style of team, they could be bounced early. But if they avoid this style of team, I think they'll be able to go on a run. I think Tech will take care of their first two teams as long as they don't play like a team with really, really elite size and that can just slow the game down with good perimeter defense. But if they are in the same region as like a Tennessee or a Florida, or especially, I got to think Illinois is a nightmare matchup for Texas Tech because they can shoot the 3 with the Red Raiders, but then they also have the size and the rebounding ability where they're just going to get so many extra possessions, the third best offensive rebounding team in the country, that I think Texas Tech would run into a lot of problems if they saw like Illinois in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, if they saw a team like, if they're in the same region as Florida, Illinois, Tennessee. Those are the 3 main teams. And what do those 3 teams have? A lot of fucking size, man. And that's what's going to be the Achilles heel for Texas Tech, is teams that can just dominate the front court, not allow them any second chance opportunities, create a lot of second chance opportunities in their own right, and just abuse them down low, slow the game down, get into the half court. And then if you combine that with like Florida is a nightmare matchup for Texas Tech, because not only do they have elite size down low, they have great defensive guard play. Where Illinois' defensive guard play, like they can lose in a shootout. Like Texas Tech can beat them in a shootout. I think they wouldn't because Illinois would be able to get so many extra possessions. But teams with really and same thing with Tennessee's in that same boat. You know, Tennessee doesn't shoot the 3 as much. They slow the game down a lot, and I think they would just dominate on the glass. Best offensive rebounding team in the country. But Jacoby Gillespie isn't the greatest. Like they don't have the greatest defensive guards in Tennessee either. So maybe Texas Tech will be able to still score a bunch on them. But I think just teams with a lot of size down low could be a real problem for the Red Raiders come March. But if they're not, say if they're on the same side of the bracket as like an Iowa State, who I think is a horrible matchup or a great matchup for Texas Tech, or if they're on the same side of the bracket of like an Alabama, or if they're in the same region as a team like Houston, or if they're in the same region as all the 1 seeds, I think beat them, quite frankly. Like UConn, I still think beats them because they have size down low and they have good defensive guard play at times. Like they held Illinois to 60 points. So I think like Final Four might be a stretch for Texas Tech. But who knows what the matchups are in the Elite 8 or Sweet 16? Like if a UConn goes down, or if a Florida goes down before Texas Tech has to play them, and Texas Tech gets favorable matchups up until that point, I think they could make around. They're a very matchup team. That's what I'm trying to say. They're a very matchup dependent team. Same thing with Illinois. Like Illinois, if they're with a team if they play a team that can run with them, that also has the size to go with them and bang with them on the glass, they're in trouble. But I think people are underrating this Illinois team still. Best offense in the country. I still think they're a national championship contender because they have a guy in Keaton Wagler who can take over a game down the stretch. Even if the shot's not falling, he's still aggressive, getting downhill, getting to the line, and everybody on that lineup can shoot the 3. oh my gosh, what's the dude's name with the ponytail? Jake Davis doesn't fucking miss. They have the two Croatian bigs that don't miss. Stojakovic is streaky, but if he's on, they're not losing. They have the best offense in the country. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They had a good out of conference schedule. They beat Ohio State, Tennessee, and Texas Tech. Or Tennessee and Texas Tech are out of conference, but they beat both of us. They beat Texas Tech with JT Top, and a lot of people just forget that game for some reason. They've been able to win on the road. They won at Purdue. They won at Iowa. They won at USC. They don't have any real bad losses, in my opinion. I think UCLA and Wisconsin. Listen, I'm contradicting myself a little bit because I said like Wisconsin is a bad loss for Michigan. I'm saying I don't think that. I think Wisconsin's a team that can beat anybody in the country on any night, especially with Nick Boyd. That guy's a dog. But I'm saying like compare Michigan's losses to Arizona's losses, Wisconsin would be the worst loss of the group. That's my point. But I don't think Michigan and UCLA are necessarily bad teams, and those are the teams you would call bad losses for Illinois, especially at UCLA. They're a way better team at home, right? So I don't think they have too many bad losses. Their offense is ridiculously efficient. They rebound extremely well. They can beat anybody. Their defense is where they can get in a little bit of trouble if the shots aren't falling, but the shots are almost always falling. I like Illinois. I don't know if they can. Yeah, they can win it all. I think they can win it all. I think they have the talent and the shooting, and they can bear down defensively at times. They've very rarely been shut down this year on the offensive side. At number 6, I have Michigan State. I'm so high on this team now, man. I'm so high on this team. My take on them was they don't win at home. They only win at home. But I was ignorant to their out of conference play. Like Michigan State's out of conference schedule was tough, and they beat Kentucky and UNC in tournament formats at neutral sites. They also beat Arkansas in their out of conference play. All of those teams are going to be top 5 seeds in the tournament. Neutral sites tournament format. Those are big wins and nobody talks about it. Iowa, they also have wins over Illinois, Iowa, UCLA, Ohio State, USC. They beat Iowa 2 times. They beat Purdue on the road. They beat Indiana on the road. So they're one of the best defensive teams in the country. Izzo, there's some storyline there with Izzo where does he have one more run in him before he retires. They have a top 3 guard in the country. Colin Carr is a beast. Jackson Kohler's a beast. Michigan State is a team now that I think is starting to peak at the right time. Look out for the Spartans, man. I have them as the 6th best team in the country. Number 5 is UConn, and I think there's a little bit of a gap between 6 and 5. And then I think there's a little bit of gap between UConn and these top 4 teams. And I'm throwing Florida in that next category with Michigan, Arizona. I'll give you the top 5. Number 1 is Duke. Number 2 is Arizona. Number 3 is Michigan. Number 4 is Florida. Number 5 is UConn. I understand UConn has the head over Florida. There's a different Florida team right now than it was in November when they played, in December when they played. And UConn dominated their out of conference schedule. You got to give them credit. UConn dominated their out of conference column. They beat BYU, they beat Illinois, they beat Kansas, they beat Florida, they beat Texas. They only lost to 4 against Arizona. They recently just blew out St. John's. Danny Hurley's going to have these boys ready to go in March. They have a potential closer in solo ball. They have one of the most underrated freshmen in the country in Mullins. They have size down low. They can play really elite defense at times. They held Illinois, who's like one of the most historically efficient offenses, to 61 points. Like UConn is a real threat, real national championship contender, but they've also skated by in the Big East. Like they haven't dominated a really, really bad Big East. They've won all the games. Credit to them, honestly. Like they know how to win close games, but it hasn't been in the dominant fashion you would expect a team that has such a talent advantage like UConn has. Where Florida, on the other hand, even though UConn has the head-to-head, they found their three-point shooting from beyond the arc. Boogie Flan, Clabazar, Xavier Lee are all playing at the best basketball they've been playing all season, especially Clabazar and Flan. They have the best front court in the country, and they've ran through the SEC where UConn has struggled in the Big East. So I have Florida over UConn, but don't get no mistake about it. UConn can win a national championship for sure. Then 3, I have Michigan. I alluded to it earlier. I just think LJ Kaysen done for the year moves them down behind Arizona, and Arizona's has a better resume, in my opinion. Even though Michigan has a harder out-of-conference schedule, I think Arizona with Koa Pete is just as good defensively. They just held Joshua Jefferson to 2 for 17 from the field. Ridiculous. I think they have a better backcourt with Bradley and Burries than just Cadeau now with Collins going to, or Kaysen going down. Defensively, I think it's way closer, and I trust Arizona if they need a bucket. I trust them that they have more guys that can go and get one down the stretch than Michigan can. And they just have more experienced guard play. Like Jaden Bradley, I think is going to be a guy that's just built for the moment, built for March. He's stepped up in every ranked game. Every time they need a bucket, he shows up. I love Jaden Bradley. He just has that type of feel about him. And I just posted this TikTok. It's not doing good, which pisses me off because I need more people to understand this. There's a guard in Arizona. It's not Burries. It's not Bradley. His name is Anthony fucking Delorso. That guy's gonna have a monster game one time in March. I'm almost certain of it. I just you get a gut feeling about a player sometimes, and it's ironic because I bet against Florida, and that guy was just snatching my soul out, snatching my heart out. Remember the name? Anthony Delorso. Seems like a guy. I'm pretty sure he's been in Arizona his whole career, senior this year, who just seems like he's built for the moment. He plays with so much confidence. He makes tough shots. He always makes the right basketball play. High basketball IQ. He's from Australia. Anthony Delorso is a guy that just screams 25 in the Elite Eight. Game winner in the round of 32 against fucking St. Louis. St. Louis runs Arizona close. Here comes Delorso, right? He did something about him. There's a few players every year that just like Dante DiVincenzo. He was a good player. Like he played more than Delorso did, but he wasn't the go-to guy on that Villanova team. He goes off in the national championship. They win. Anthony, it's something about him. He just feels like a guy. Same thing with Iowa State as a guy too, and Tamin Lipsey. It just feels like a guy. And I gotta say, I get these feelings about players, and usually they're like, it's very rare I get these type of feelings about guys. I'm serious. They're just built for March. The strongest feeling I ever had about a player was Marquise Noel in that Kansas State team that went to the Elite Eight. I had him, if they made the Final Four, I would have won the bracket pool that year. Closest I ever got. I picked UConn to win that year. So, Delorso's a guy. Tamin Lipsey's a guy. LeBaron Philon is a guy too. But that's like I don't have that. I don't feel that convicted. Like everybody likes LeBaron Philon. I don't know how you can't. But Tamin Lipsey, Anthony Delorso are a couple guys that I feel like can just muster more Delorso than Lipsey because Lipsey has struggles to score the ball at times. But he's a but when he does score the ball, he just impacts the game in so many different ways. He's a guy. Not quite the way Marquise Noel was because that guy was the best player in that tournament. You can't change my mind. Yeah. And then Duke, number one. Like I said, Duke's the best team in the country. I hate Duke. I resent Duke. It's hard to deny them at this point. So, yeah, Duke, number one. Those are the top 10 teams in college basketball. Now, I will send it to myself, and we'll start all the way back at the 12 o'clock slate on Saturday, and we'll get into the rest of the episode. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe. Go to TikTok as well.